All right, welcome. And you are now here in the module where we touch on the different personality types. And we begin with the ENFJ. So I'm excited about this one. The beauty that you'll find is that we're going to go through some of the basics of each type. And then what we will do is delve into the functional loops, understanding how you operate at your best and how you operate at your worst. Because what we want to do is help you understand your personality type in a way where you can maximize on what works. We don't want to tell you how to be something that you're not. Um, we don't want to be in a scenario where you're trying to veer too far away from your natural flow, because when you do that, that's when you experience the grip. And the grip is when you basically stress out your mind in your main functions, and it causes you to start utilizing your lower functions more, which gives you stress. And that can play out in a lot of different ways depending on your personality type. So let's get started. All right, so we'll begin with the ENFJ. Now, the ENFJ, whether you are an ENFJ or if you know somebody that is an ENFJ or want to study them. One thing about the ENFJ is that this is a very gifted personality type. Let me just start off by saying that they are given certain functions that give them a view of the world unlike any other. Their functions put them in a position where, due to their introverted intuition and their extroverted sensing being their second and third functions, they're balancing this line between their mind and trusting their hunches and balancing that with the external world and going out into the external world and testing it. So it's always varying in between this intuitive space in this airy space, and then combining that with the harsh, strong senses of of reality. So it's living in between fantasy and reality, and moving through the world with such a unique view. And that's why these types tend to be your, thought leaders, your motivators. They guide people in certain directions because they are familiar with the external world. They're willing to take it head on, and they're willing to trust their intuition amidst all of the challenges that life can bring. This type has extroverted feeling first, so they're very expressive, very communicative, less focused on how they feel and more so focused on understanding how other people feel. This gives them the ability to influence people and, in their world, make the world a better place because they can guide people in the right directions. Extroverted feeling is that communicative function. They desire connection, and that's one thing you'll find with ENFJs. Um, they often are natural leaders, and they're the type of people who are energized by interacting with others. So ENFJs love to communicate with people. They're willing to communicate, um, and they're the type of people that uh, get energy by that. So when it comes to communication, that's just a part of their natural expression, and it makes it easy for them to be leaders, because if you're being a leader is all about inspiring people and guiding people in a certain direction. And one of the hardest parts that people deal with when it comes to being a leader is having the energy and the desire to want to interact with people, to want to guide people and deal with all the different difficulties that can occur during communication. ENFJs, they are built to handle that. They take that on, and they actually learn so much from that, and it makes them sharper and sharper. The more people they communicate with, the better and better they get at communicating. Okay. Um, they value harmony, and they seek to create positive change in the world. So, like we talked about, they are generally people who they can be rebels at times. They can be, going their own path. They tend to think out the box, but at the same time, they value harmony. So their goal is always to do something that's going to be helpful for people. They want the best for people, and they are generally very warm natured and positive people. It's very rare that you'll meet, a mean or evil ENFJ. They generally come with an open heart and are looking to just help. So that's something that's big. They can be persuasive communicators, adept at bringing people together to achieve a common goal. Communication is honestly one of their main gifts. They are masterful communicators, and they have an ability to speak the language to whichever audience they are serving. So they're not the types to, they're adaptable. They are flexible. They have the ability to operate with this group and, connect and meet them where they are, and then go with another group and connect and meet them where they are. But they still have this grounded sense of identity. They have a very mature aura about them. They have a natural leadership spirit. A lot of ENFJs are, when they were young, were considered old souls because they mature very quickly, and they are very passionate and they love to learn. So these are the things that make them very interesting people and helps them develop so quickly. And their ability to understand people and interact with people, they have that drive from a young age. So as they mature, they just get better and better at it, and they trust themselves more and more. So that's big. Now, as you can see, there are some functions here. They have extroverted feeling. Okay, that's their first function. So they want to connect with the external world. They want to communicate, express themselves. They're willing to go into the chaos to find out the truth. That's what extroverted feeling is all about: being willing to go into the chaos of people and pull out gems and experience the fun of letting go. It's very much more a function of letting go than of trying to hold on to its feeling. So that's what makes them very expressive. You have introverted intuition second, and that's the visionary function for them. That is, the idealism, that vision or that idea that they dream, could be. And that is generally what they're fighting to reach or to bring people, is toward a positive ending outcome. And all their energy is geared toward making that happen. Then they have extroverted sensing third. That is the function of going out to explore. And that's what they do. They like to be out in the field to learn. They are explorative in that regard. They're not the kind of intuitives that are sitting in their room all day or sitting in the house. They like to go out. They like to communicate. You see, they have extroverted feeling and extroverted sensing both as their external functions. So what that tells you is they're going out and connecting with people. That is their primary driver, is to go out into the external world, connect with different people, do different things, learn different things, help people in certain areas. They are out there trying to help the world and communicate and assist people, and share wisdom, knowledge, and their skill sets that they build over time. These people are very wise, and their introverted intuition holds a lot of powerful ideas and realizations. The introverted thinking is last, and that introverted thinking is what powers them forward. They focus on moving one step at a time, which makes them very present, and they are slowly developing information along the way. It is a buildup until they have a major intuitive moment. So, like when you have introverted intuition and introverted thinking as your internal functions, your inner world is constantly gathering information one step at a time and leading it up to this major realization that you'll have with introverted intuition. Once you have that major realization, you're charged up, powered up, you reach a new level, and then you can go back into the world and communicate even more powerfully. So that's what the ENFJ is doing. They're going out into the world, accumulating all this information, processing it one step at a time, having these major realizations, and then going back out there and sharing those. And that's some of the powerful things that ENFJs do. Oh yeah, and can I forget? We have to play this video.
Three, and everything to him is happy. The only thing that makes him unhappy is when things are over, when you turn something off and when the television goes off, when it's time to go to bed, or when he has to come in the house, everything is over. That's bad, you know. And when you're an adult, when something is over, that's like, it's the opposite, you know. When it's over, is good, you know. You just, oh, I'm off work, it's over, you know. Vacation, it's over. Oh, God, she's out of the house. My children in college, it's over. Oh my God.
So right there, that was very interesting. Is you could see how he was able to give an example of what he's communicating through the filter of another person's experience. And that is showing his extroverted feeling. You also notice that he's a comfortable communicator. And for those of you, you can sense the feeling. His feelings are kind of shining through his communication. And for a lot of you out there, that is how you'll be able to measure and see who's a feeler versus who is a thinker. Feelers generally they wear their feelings in their communication. So you'll see as you listen to him talk some more.
And so it's that difference. But and children see things so great. If the world can, what happens is that adults complicate things and children don't. As simple as this: the sky is blue. And adults, when they go, the sky is blue. Why is it blue? Because birds and bees and everything wasn't meant to be analyzed.
Why is it blue? He brought that up. That's intuition. Him being able to play with those questions, him even being aware that people ask those questions, is his intuitive nature leaking through.
And that's where a lot of problems come in, I think. And that's where I think kids are happier. Kids are definitely happier and more relaxed than adults.
Do you think if parents or adults had happier childhoods, they would be better off when they grow up? I mean, like a lot of people say, if you have a troubled childhood, you lack self-esteem when you grow up.
No, actually, I think it's, well, okay. From my mother's point, well, if you grew up happy, too happy, you know, like in fairy tale land, not fairy tale. I mean, if you grew up where, you know, every Christmas you got a present and every birthday you got a present and every holiday was a holiday and everything was peachy, and your parents took care of everything and you just grew up. I don't think that prepares you for the world. You know, my mother had a really bad childhood.
And as you can see, that's his extroverted sensing, understanding the rough, harsh aspects of reality in his own personal experiences. And so what he's saying is people that's lived in that cushy life, it's that extroverted sensing that he seems to be speaking to, that you need to accumulate more experiences. You need to see more in order to have a better perspective on life. And being in that isolated experience limits your experiences. So obviously you can see that he values experiences as a form of learning.
My father had a bad childhood and I had a bad childhood, but I love my childhood. Even though it was bad, I love it. I feel like it's taught me so much. And I feel like nothing can faze me. You know, nothing in this world, nothing can surprise me. Definitely. Oh, definitely. Definitely. But not.
And that's the toughness that a lot of ENFJs have within them. A lot of ENFJs have that extroverted sensing third. They're very tough for feelers, and a lot of that comes from that extroverted sensing and them being willing to learn and go through tough experiences, but still see the joy in that, in terms of that they wouldn't trade it. Like he's saying, I wouldn't trade it because those experiences are making him get a certain aspect of information that most people don't get.
Being a yup parent, like yup people, you know, just not being, oh yes dear, I understand, yes you can go to the party. That doesn't help. Those produce even worse kids because it produces ambitious but unready children, you know, and those where our martyrs come from, you know. So I think they should listen but analyze what they're saying. Just don't push them through the path and don't hold them from going to the path, but help them through the path. That's what I think should happen.
Now, as you can see, that's the idealism. You know, he's explaining what is the ideal situation that we, you know, or the ideal action we could take to help these people, and this is what he's coming up with. And so you see him using his mind, his intuition, to figure out what is the next best thing to do. You'll notice intuitives have a much better ability to use their mind to do this than, let's say, sensors, and you'll find that as we go further.
Quit my job today, actually, because I wanted to come and do this, and they wouldn't let me. And I felt like it was important, and it was more important than serving pizza. And
ENFJs have a strong confidence. They're very decisive. And so when they make a decision to do something, a lot of the time they'll stand by it. They carry themselves with a certain level of vigor. As it mentioned here, they said pride, and just they carry themselves with a certain level of confidence, generally speaking. And that's one of the gifts that they have, is a natural confidence. And that's also what makes them very magnetic and makes them very natural leaders.
We had enough people, so I felt like since I'm an actor, they should understand. They should have let me do it, but they didn't. And then I had a cold, so they were making me work in a freezer. And I'm really not one to be disrespected, and I felt like that was disrespectful because I asked to go, So I quit, and he told me I couldn't quit. And that even made me hyper. I'm arrogant. So when he told me I couldn't quit and we had all these customers, I chose that time to jump on a soapbox, grab my leather jacket, light a cigarette in front of him, smoke, and leave in the middle of a rush. So that was natural. That's arrogance.
So ENFJs, and they have that introverted thinking where they want to do what they want to do. But that extroverted feeling makes him a showman. He wanted to make sure that he communicated a certain effect to the person. And they're very willing to just explore the physical environment and take charge of their life. I mean, that's just something that they're gifted with. So, that's big right there. So let's continue. So who is the ENFJ? They enjoy communicating, all right, with people. They're natural communicators. We talked about that. They have strong leadership qualities. They are idealists who love to share their ideas with people. Generally strong-minded, and they presenting an aura of confidence. They seek harmony and strive to maintain positive relationships with others. So that's very important. The big thing to understand with ENFJs is that they really are leaders in terms of how they really, when they communicate with people, and they have a very strong sense of identity when it comes to dealing with people because of the amount of people they interact with. They develop this skill. Now, when I say leader, I don't mean leader in the same quality that others are leaders. They're not necessarily trying to lead you to a specific destination all the time. But it's more so leadership in the sense of they can lead the environment in the moment. When you meet them, they might be the first to communicate. They'll be willing to open the conversation, to say, things to get things going. They lead in that regard. They like to feel like they are in control of their life. And so as a result, everyone around them, it's a very similar quality. Everyone around them, they want to feel as though that there's a sense of control there as well. So they do have this energy where they like to be ahead of situations and they like to guide people. And so, with that, there's a lot of positives. There's negatives as well. Before we delve into that, let's take a look here and see some examples.
People come over. I'm getting way more chemicals. I'm getting the oxytocin of the handshake. I'm getting oxytocin from the eye contact. I'm getting dopamine because we're smiling and laughing together.
I meet people every single day that have heard the music. And
now, once again, I'm going to play that back because that's big. This in the world of ENFJs, it's more than just talking to somebody. There is a different level of experience that they are getting when communicating with people. You know what I mean? And this is a great explanation of what is felt.
I'm getting way more chemicals. I'm getting the oxytocin of the handshake. I'm getting oxytocin from the eye contact. I'm getting dopamine because we're smiling and laughing together.
I meet people every single day that have heard the music and have incorporated it into their lives somehow, whether it's at their wedding or,
I meet people every single day That lets you know he's gathering information and perspective through the people he meets. Okay, this is their tool to gather information and to learn.
It was this song of friendship, and I like that. It feels like I have a tribe.
We need to return to a long-held value of compassion and empathy. Online, we've got to...
This is the introverted intuition with the ideal world of how things should be, the idealism, visions of how things are supposed to be versus how they are. That's that sensing intuition battle that they have. Remember, they have intuition second, sensing third. So those second and third functions are constantly looking at how things should be, but then they're having to deal with the realities of sensing. Then they're going back, well, this is where I want to go or how things can be, but this is how things are. So when you're hearing them speak, it's motivating because they see clearly where they want to be while also understanding exactly where they are. And that's what makes their perspective so interesting and their perspectives hit so close to home.
Compassion deficit and empathy crisis.
It's not woo-woo to want to raise your vibration emotionally, right? And emotions have been preserved over time throughout evolution to the most complex creatures, which are human beings, which means that the more complex we get through evolution, the more evolution seems to value emotion.
Right, so shout out to that. And so this is an idea of the ENFJ. This is just painting a pretty, interesting picture on how they operate. And so let's continue. So with this type, you can imagine there are amazing qualities that you have, but we must remember there are also weaknesses, because as you are good at extroverted feeling and all of these other functions, the reality is that you're not as good at other functions. Okay. And so, because you're not using other functions as much. So let's talk about what that looks like. So first and foremost, one of the main strengths for ENFJs is their charisma. And they're very inspiring. They are likable people and they're very influential. And in their communication, their goal is to be influential. Their goal is to guide people in the right direction or in a direction that they see as powerful or positive. They are always looking forward. They're either in the present moment or they're going forward. So they're very present with people, and it allows them to bring a lot of energy and charisma to people, and also guide and inspire people because they can see where they want to go, and they inspire people to focus on the present and where you're going. So they are great at doing that. They have strong leadership skills, as we mentioned. All of this is connected with their introverted intuition, their ability to see where they want to go moment to moment. And a lot of the time, this isn't long-term vision. In a lot of cases, it can be. But in a lot of cases for them, it's not this long-term vision. It's just the vision of what they want to do next in this moment. Like, all right, next I want to go to the mall so I can buy this. They're going to have that vigor. All right, come on, let's go. I'm about to go to the mall and get this. Y'all ready? Yeah, and then after that, we can go do this. Or what do you think? Let's do this. And so it's like always moving forward when you're around them. Eventually, they begin to build their routines that they operate their life in. But that's, what allows them to have that leadership quality. They are excellent communicators. They have extroverted feeling, number one. So they've grown up their whole life communicating with people at a very large number. And then when you pair that with introverted intuition, always thinking of the next best thing, what it becomes is this thing where they're always focused on the next best thing to say, the next best thing to do, the next best place to go. When you're around them, they're always ready to move forward. Now, they have an ability to communicate and talk about ideas because they have introverted intuition. So when you get into a comfortable space with them, you get into their inner world and understand how they think and some of the idealism that they have within. And you get to hear that. But, outside of that, it's on to the next. Let's go out and experience things. Let's do things. And let's communicate with more people. So they're constantly doing that. And that's what makes them very good communicators that can anticipate the needs and, in some cases, the desires of the people that they're communicating with. They learn over time what gets people to tick, what gets people to move, and that's one of their high level skill sets. They're visionaries and they're idealistic. We talked about that with that introverted intuition. Harmonious and diplomatic. They have extroverted feelings, so they don't want to let people down, right? They want to give the best image that they possibly can to the environment. They want to look like they're flawless. They really want to look like leaders that you can depend on. They want to be symbols of strength. But they're human beings, right? But this type specifically likes to have an aura of, infallibility. They really want to be a pillar of strength for the people around them, and that's a beautiful thing. And a lot of that has to do with them not wanting to let people down and wanting to do whatever they can to help people have a better experience. And they're adaptive and flexible. That extroverted feeling is willing to go into the chaos. It's willing to go out and just experiment and experience and see what happens. So they are adaptive, and they're always pulling insight out of every situation as much as they can. Now, when it comes to the weaknesses, and keep in mind, these are just some strengths, these are just some weaknesses, but we want to touch on these because this is going to give you the balance of what happens when you aren't using other functions as much, right? And when you're relying so heavily on extroverted feeling or the main functions that you have. So, number one is overextending themselves. As extroverted feelers, they constantly are focused on other people, on other people's needs, trying to anticipate what's the next best thing to do for this person. And in a lot of cases, it can make it where they're overextending themselves and trying to be everything for everybody, and that's just not good. So that's something that they experience. Difficulty with conflict. Once again, they have that extroverted feeling. They want everything to be, positive, especially with that introverted intuition. They're trying to have this ideal, whatever they envision as the relationships that they want to have those. But the reality of extroverted sensing and of life can make it tough. And when those situations happen, conflict occurs, and they have a hard time with conflict because they don't want to let people down, but they're so headstrong at the same time in wanting to deliver a good experience that it can be stressful for them trying to anticipate someone's needs, create the perfect experience. It's a lot of pressure, and a lot of time that can be difficult. And they have a sensitivity to criticism. You know what I mean? They have that extroverted feeling, so they're always trying to anticipate people's needs. If they can't deliver, it makes them feel less capable. And because of that, it can affect with their identity and how they view themselves. So this type, a lot of the time, can have confidence issues when they're young, trying to understand how to fit into the group. People might perceive them as doing too much. They have to adapt to learn how to have the right flavor in relationships where it's not over consuming. Because that extroverted feeling and that introverted intuition, always wanting to be, anticipate what people want and do the perfect thing and be that perfect guy. Other people might not like that, right? You want to give other people the opportunity to shine and give other people the opportunity to express themselves. But ENFJs, a lot of the time, it can feel like controlling, like they're controlling or trying to manage and dictate the environment in order for them to feel comfortable. And a big part of their growth is being willing to let go and be comfortable in and of themselves. So that's, instead of having to alter the environment to feel comfortable. So that's something that's very important for ENFJs to work on. They have a difficulty saying no. They can overextend themselves a lot. Once again, always trying to be there for everyone. That extroverted sensing, wanting to go out and experience, and help different people here and there. A lot of the time, ENFJs can just be going, not spending time to focus on themselves. They have extroverted feeling first. So that means their introverted feeling is a subconscious function. It's not one of their main things. So they have a harder time of understanding how they feel. A lot of their attention is on how other people feel, and that's how they figure out how they feel. But a lot of growth for ENFJs will be to, take care of themselves and wonder, how do I feel? Is this compromising me? Am I extending myself too much? And that's where saying no is a big step for ENFJs, and it can be very helpful. And then finally, they can have struggles with decision making. One thing to understand is because they have extroverted feeling first, they have their thinking function fourth. in 8th. So their introverted thinking is 4th. And that's what they think. And then extroverted thinking, which is the knowledge of the world and of other people, that's their 8th function. That's their last function. So they're not the best at taking in other people's perspectives, and they have a hard time at moments when situations aren't as clear. They have difficulty coming up with figuring out what they think. So a lot of the time they want to go with how they feel, but when it comes to having to think through and figure out the best steps, that can present challenges. They have the capacity to do it for sure, but there are times where they can have trouble making decisions because they're emotionally overextended and they are, they don't have the data. Then, they're not using extroverted thinking to gather more information, so they can be stuck trying to make decisions based off, the few options that they've thought of. So a big part for introverted or for ENFJs is to continue to learn, read, expand your knowledge base. It's okay to seek perspective. You don't always have to figure everything out on your own and look like you got it all figured out. It's okay to ask and to learn from other people. Oh, yes. And let me just show you a video where we can see what it looks like when an ENFJ is dealing with, a high stress situation. One thing that's big is that ENFJs always seem like they got it figured out, like they got it all together. But we got to remember is that ENFJs are human beings as well. You know what I mean? So it's important to understand that, look, they don't have it figured out all the time, and that's okay. But in those moments, what does the ENFJ look like in their most stressed out situations, or when they're really dealing with stress, really dealing with tough situations? Well, we'll be able to take a look here and see what that looks like.
Mia, I'm so sorry. Just tell me how it went. How was it? Mia, I'm so sorry.
Alrighty, let's take a look.
Mia, I'm so sorry. Just tell me how it went. How was it? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let me make it up to you. Let me make it up to you, okay?
Now, one thing you can see, amidst her being super upset, she's still willing to communicate. Extroverted feelers definitely, they have this thing where they have to communicate, and that's big. So even in her stress, she's gonna communicate. And you also notice that she's wearing her emotions on her sleeve. She's in a very distraught state, and you could tell, she's not trying to hide it and hold it all in. She's expressing herself. Now, of course, she's not communicating. She doesn't want to talk. That's her lack of extroverted thinking, not wanting to communicate what she thinks. She's more so caught in the feeling of what's going on. Let's continue.
I don't blame you for
It's
not
over.
What is?
It's over.
What?
All of this. I'm done embarrassing myself. I'm done. Nobody showed up.
So what?
I can't pay back the theater. This is so...
Now that's what lets her down is she can't pay back the theater. She's letting down the group, the people that are expecting her to pay her. That really bothers her, right? Not being able to live up to the standard or deliver for people. Not reaching this, this is a moment where the introverted intuition, her vision of how things should be, it's not playing out like that. The reality, the harsh reality is that nobody showed up to the show, and it's causing her to feel like she's not worthy because she isn't performing the way she needs to for the group. You know what I mean? And you can see how that plays out.
I'm gonna go home for a while.
I'll come see you tomorrow.
No, I'm going home.
This is home.
No, it's not anymore.
She said, well, in the video, it says ENFJs will go away from people in order to self-criticize. That's big. They have introverted intuition of how things should be, and they have the introverted thinking, which can be very critical. Should have did this, should have did that, and they can chip away at themselves. So, that can be difficult.
Why did you come here?
Because I have good news.
What?
Amy Brandt, the casting director, she was at your play, and she loved it. And she loved it so much that she wants you to come in tomorrow and audition for this huge movie that she's got.
I'm not going to that. I'm not going to that.
What?
That one's going to be, no.
Now, as you can see, she's making quick decisions based on what's going to happen next. She's saying, I'm not doing it. So, when they say ENFJ, right, we didn't really delve into the J and the P. Like people say, that ENFJ, for example, would be extroverted, intuitive, a feeler, and a judger is what the J means. Now, based on how we construct this, we go past that. We don't really pay attention to that. But J's are people who like things to be decided early. And because ENFJs have introverted intuition as the first perception function, they are considered judges. So they make quick decisions. They yes or no. And you notice all the time she's like, no, I quit. Like everything's decisive. And you can see that.
Play. And she loved it. And she loved it so much that she wants you to come in tomorrow and audition for this huge movie that she's got.
I'm not going to that. I'm not going to that.
What?
That one's going to be, no. That one's going to be,
I'm sorry?
that will kill me.
What? What? Stop!
No!
You have to be quiet.
If you want me to, you have to make...
Now he's pushing her buttons, but you can see she's like, no. You see how rattled she is by the environment being disrupted. So, a way that extroverted feeling, and this was ENFJ themselves told me that a good way to understand how they look at things in terms of extroverted feeling is when they go into a mall, if they see like a broom and like some dirt on the ground, they're naturally like, somebody needs to move that because it's affecting the environment. So they're very sensitive to the environment and to the needs of what's around them. And so you could see that in this moment.
Makes sense. If you want me to be quiet, you have to make some goddamn sense. You tell me why you're not going.
Because
Why?
I've been to a million auditions, and the same thing happens every time where I get interrupted because someone wants to get a sandwich, or I'm crying and they start laughing, or there's people sitting in the waiting room and they're like me but prettier and better because maybe I'm not good enough.
Yes, you are.
No, maybe I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Maybe I'm not.
You are.
Maybe I'm not.
You are.
Maybe I'm one of those people that has always wanted to do it, but it's like a pipe dream for me, and then you set it, you change your dreams and then you grow up. Maybe I'm one of those people and I'm not supposed to. And I can go back to school and I can find something else that I'm supposed to do because I left to do that. And it's been 6 years and I don't want to do it anymore.
We tour so we can make the record, so we can go back and tour the record.
So it's like the long haul.
What do you mean the long haul?
I mean the long haul, like you're going to stay in this band for a long time. On tour.
Now, this is her using introverted intuition to predict where things will be. At least from the vision that she can see, that's what she sees moving forward. So you notice instead of being in the present moment, she just presented him with a future possibility. And now look, you can see in his eyes, he's having to think about that. That's what ENFJs are always doing. They're always projecting where things are going to go next.
I mean, what did you think I was going to do?
I hadn't really thought it through. I didn't know that the band was
You
so
didn't think it would be
important.
See, she didn't think it through. So you notice they have extroverted sensing and introverted intuition. That is focused on the present and where things will happen next. Now, introverted sensing and extroverted intuition, which is not their strength, is focused on where things will be in the future based on where things have been in the past. Because they're not paying attention to the past as much, they're paying attention to the present. She never really took the time to project or really think about where he was going to be, in the long term, because she was so focused with the moment to moment. Now that this is becoming a bigger and bigger reality, now she's starting to have to realize this, and now she's having to see where things are going to go next. And he's like, you haven't been thinking about this the whole time? But ENFJs are so present that a lot of the time, she probably hasn't.
Successful.
No, that's not really what I mean. I just mean that you're going to be on tour for what, months now, years?
Yeah, I don't be. This is it. I mean, it could feasibly be I could be on tour with this for a couple of years at least, just this record.
Do you like the music you're playing?
Presenting a question. That's how you can tell intuition or intuitives, asking questions to get perspective.
I don't know what it matters.
Well, it matters because if you're going to give up your dream, I think it matters that you like what you're playing on the road for years.
Do you like the music I'm playing?
Yeah. I do. I just didn't think that you did.
Yeah, well,
You always said Keith is the worst, and now you're going to be on tour with him for years. So I just didn't.
I don't know what are you doing
know
right
if
now?
you were happy.
Why are you doing this?
I don't.
I thought you wanted me to do this. It just sounds like now you don't want me to do it.
What do you mean? I wanted you to do this.
This is what you wanted from me.
To be in this band?
To be in a band, to have a steady job, to be,
Of course, I wanted you to have a steady job so that you could take care of yourself and your life and you could start your club.
Yeah, so I'm doing that. So I don't understand. Like, why aren't we celebrating?
Why aren't you starting your club?
You said yourself no one wants to go to that club. No one wants to go to a club called Chicken on a Stick.
So change the name.
Well, no one likes jazz. Not even you.
I do like jazz now because
And
of
this
you.
is what I thought you wanted me to do. What am I supposed to do? Go back to playing Jingle Bells?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying why do
Scraping
you
pennies so I can
take
start
what
a
you've
club that
made
no one
and
wants
start
to
the
go
club?
to?
That people will want to go to it.
And this is her. That's where that control can kick in. You can constantly see, he's being guided by what she's saying he should do. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And he's like, well, I'm doing it. And now she's saying, well, you should do this. You should do that. So ENFJs are constantly with the people in their lives, especially their close partners. They have this natural leadership ability, but they must watch to make sure that wherever they're guiding people, that they're clear about it, because they can often be guiding people in a certain direction, but then want to guide them in a different direction because they didn't take into account the full long-term trajectory where things were going. So it's important for ENFJs to take the time to think about what is the long-term trajectory of where I want to go versus just the short-term goals that I have. They have to very much make sure that their short-term goals and long-term goals are synonymous so that these situations don't happen.
Because you're passionate about it, and people love what other people are passionate about. You remind people of what they forgot.
And you see, she has that extroverted feeling. She's passionate when she's communicating. She's got this decisiveness and leadership in her communication, so you can hear it even while they're arguing.
Experience. Well, whatever, all right? I mean, it's time to grow up, I have a steady job. This is what I'm doing. And now all of a sudden, if you had these problems, I wish you would have said them earlier before I signed on the goddamn dotted line.
I'm pointing out that you had a dream, that you followed, that you were sticking to.
This is the dream. This is the dream.
This is not your
Guys
dream.
like me work their whole lives to be in something that's successful, that people like, I mean, I'm finally in something that people enjoy.
Since when do
Just
you
'cause I
care
don't enjoy
about
it doesn't
being
matter.
liked? Why do you care so much about being liked?
You're an actress. What are you talking about? Maybe you just liked me when I was on my ass because it made you feel better about yourself.
kidding?
No.
All right. So these are some different scenarios that play out. So I think that was pretty cool. All right. So now let's talk about the functional loops. Now, this is very important when we talk about these functional loops. This is what the makeup of your personality type. These are your four main functions. You have extroverted feeling. That is what's driving you. From birth to puberty, this is the dominant function. And then you have your auxiliary function, which is from puberty to age 30. And that's when you start to pick this up a little better. Then you have age 30 to midlife, you get better with your third function. And then your fourth function, they say, gets better, during your midlife, you get better at that function. In your case, the way things filter through your mind is extroverted feeling. You see how, you go out into the world to see what's going on. You tap into your intuition to process what it is that you're feeling. You're using your extroverted sensing to pick up on information and data, and then you're coming to conclusions based on how you think with all of this information. So you're coming up with how you think based on the feelings that you're getting from the things that you're experiencing, and then you're moving forward to move to the next best situation so that you can feel good and have good experiences. So your thinking and intuition is constantly trying to guide you in a direction where you can have good feelings and good sensory experiences. So the thing, though, to keep in mind here is when you get into these loops, and this is very important because these loops are where people get stuck. And this is where I really wanted to help the people out there when it comes to these functional loops and some of the traps you can get caught in with these functional loops. So you have extroverted feeling and extroverted sensing. This can be a loop right here where you can get stuck, where you're constantly trying to communicate with people and delve in with different people so that you can have new experiences in order to think clear or have a better idea of what's going to happen next. But what happens when you're going into these experiences and you're having negative experiences? And instead of taking the time to process them and see where am I going and what do I think about it, you just continue to delve deeper into more experiences. And then now you're getting caught into more experiences and more different feelings and more experiences and more different feelings. And you begin to go, talking to these people, hanging with these people, going with these people, talking to these people, traveling here, traveling there. And you're losing a sense of self. You're not being able to ground yourself in anything. You don't have the introverted sensing to pull you back into your groundedness. You don't have the introverted feeling to check in on how you feel. So you're just going and just trying to make the next best step based on what your feelings want. And that's when you get into a bad loop as an ENFJ. So whenever you're in a scenario where your feelings, when you're constantly having all these experiences going into overdrive and you need to slow it down, it's very important that you tap into your introverted intuition in order to unlock your thinking. And what you do is you have to tap into meditation, quieting the mind, getting away from everyone and being in solitude. And by being in that solitude and by closing your eyes and blocking out all the sensory experiences and just being in your mind, what happens is you're able to now have a stillness. And once you're in that stillness, you can hear what you really think. And you really get a chance to hear your thoughts and really get in touch with who you are and what you need to be grounded. So it's very important that you create the space for your intuition to have clarity, because when you're lost in all these experiences, you can lose a sense of yourself. And then on the other side, another loop that can happen is whenever they have a negative experience. Let's say they go through a negative experience and their feelings have been violated, or they went out and had an experience that didn't feel right, and their senses, they got negative sensory experiences. They can go into themselves and become very bitter And this extroverted feeling can turn in, and the person can have this intuition that's very negative of how things are. And all their thinking can get wrapped up into this negative outlook on where things are going to go. And it could be a negative spiral. It could be a spiral of I see this negative outlook that's going to happen, and their thinking just drives them in that direction, and they can't get away from it. That's just the hunch that they see is this negative hunch, and that's when they have to value other people's thoughts and perspectives and other people's ideas and thoughts in order to get a more open perspective. Because if they get the right perspective, then they can have the proper intuition and outlook. They can balance that outlook out and be more positive. And then, sorry about that. And then as a result, they'll have a better intuition about what's going on. You know what I mean? So that's very key, that they do that. That's very important. And you don't want to get caught into a spiral like that. You know what I mean? Where your introverted intuition is you're constantly just bitter and stuck in your own head and constantly just focused on this negative outcome. Because if you continue to see a negative outcome for yourself, that's what you're going to manifest. So it's very important that you have a positive outlook on how things are. And whenever you find yourself with this negative outlook that you feel trapped with, what's going to be your escape is getting other perspectives and tapping into the positive people that are going to give you positive insights. Okay. And I know it might not be hard to believe. I know that you tend to trust what you think. But one of the biggest growth points for ENFJs is to understand that, look, you don't have to have it all figured out. There are people around you that see the world in the complete opposite view, or they're using the complete opposite functions, and they can give you an outlook that you might have as a blind spot. So you have to stay open, because you don't want to be one of those ENFJs that want to do everything your way, controlling, and want everything to be filtered through what you think. You want to be well-rounded. You want people to feel like they can express perspectives with you, because guess what? To the degree that you're able to take other people's advice and perspectives is to the degree that other people will be able to hear your perspective. So the same way that you want people to buy in and trust what you think, you have to open that same energy up for other people. And if you do that, you'll find that you'll be extremely blessed for that, because now you're allowing yourself to open your perspective to the other minds that God has out there to help give you a wider array of what's going on. Now, finally, we're going to talk about your gift and your hidden power. And I know a lot of you got this product just for this. So for ENFJs, as you can see, your gift is your influence. All right. ENFJs are highly influential. And to be quite frank, I know some ENFJs, most of them, that are brilliant. But I do know a few ENFJs that don't know much, to be honest. But these people have such a zest and natural gift of just confidence that even the people that know nothing have people following them. So you have to think, this is a power that you have to be very careful with, because when we start talking about these leaders that guide people into negative situations and end up having these crazy cults, look, man, I'll be honest, ENFJs are so influential. People can see them as potential cult leaders because they're that influential. But most ENFJs, they have such a high moral compass and moral standard that they do not want to violate people's trust, and they generally do not have any nefarious intentions. They are here to assist and make you a better person. Okay? So that is very important for people to understand. These people are positive people that generally want the best. And a good example, and let me show a good friend here, our guy, Tony Robbins, ENFJ, great example of ENFJ. Let's just listen to some of his information.
Milton Erickson. He understood that you have both a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And he knew the subconscious is more powerful. It's the part that makes your heart beat 100,000 times a day without having to think about it. And he began to notice something about human beings, that when human beings got together, if they got in rapport, a relationship of responsiveness, they became like each other in a variety of ways. What he called, they mirrored each other. To be more specific, write this down. People like people who are like themselves or who are like how they would like to be. If you want to be effective, then mirroring is so.
Now, mirroring, understanding people, that's what made Tony Robbins so powerful. He understood people so much. He had so many communications with people that he knew what to say to get them to tick. He knew the techniques, mirroring, doing things to get them to feel better. That was what Tony Robbins provided for people. And he built a fortune inspiring people with his natural abilities of influence. Let's continue.
Easy. We do it naturally, but here's the problem. Most people wait till they have enough words in common that then they put the voice in common and the body in common. But words are only 7%. They don't work all the time. Breathing is very powerful, one of the most powerful. If you breathe at the exact same pace as another person, you will feel what they are feeling, period. But for example, you get rapport just with the leg position and maybe the tone of voice, because physiology is 55% of communication.
So you can tell that he knows his craft. He understands people. He's tested these theories. And that's what extroverted feeling is all about. You're learning this information and you're testing it with people. They have a natural social scientist energy within them. And you can see that. And that's what makes them so influential. Another huge thing that they possess is that they are willing to communicate. First of all, you got to think 8 of the 16 personality types are introverts. So already 50% of the board is already quiet. Now that only leaves another half, 50%. And amongst that 50%, right, half of them are sensors, where they don't want to have to explain necessarily their ideas as much as, let's say, intuitives. And there are sensors that do like to explain their ideas. But my whole point is that slims down the list of people who are willing to communicate even more. So you have to realize you are gifted as one of the types that are willing to communicate, and that's your job. You are gifted, and God put you here, or the universe, whatever you want to believe, put you here to communicate. So that's what you're supposed to do. The question now is, what are you communicating with them about? You are the most powerful when you believe in something. So that's a big part of influence. You have to find that thing that you are passionate about, that thing that is driving you, because that thing is going to be the thing that makes you even more influential to people. Once your vision is solidified, you can be unstoppable. Okay, so that's big. And you must trust yourself to access your gift. Now, this is very important. You are very influential, but to the degree that you trust yourself is to the degree that you now have more influence. I want you to write that down. To the degree that you trust yourself is to the degree that you will have more influence. So as a ENFJ, continue to build your knowledge base, but continue to trust yourself, because the more that you trust yourself, the more powerful and influential you will be. And it is a gift that you have. So you will manifest some amazing things in your life just because you trust yourself. Okay. So this is the gift. And then for the final slide, the final portion here for my wonderful ENFJs, we're going to talk about your hidden power. Now, your hidden power isn't necessarily something you didn't know or some hidden thing, but what it is a power that you generally aren't expected to use all the time. But if you use it more, you will appear to be like Superman or Superwoman compared to others. So for you, as I mentioned already, it's your certainty. Okay. ENFJs are already naturally, they carry a certain level of certainty, but it has to be paired with a focus and a vision that is driving you. If you move toward a specific goal, okay, and I'm going to write this down. If you move toward a specific goal and you are certain about it, you will be able to bring people with you and create more momentum toward that goal. So if you move toward a certain goal with certainty, you will naturally build a powerful momentum. Okay? You will naturally build a powerful momentum. My thing broke over here. See, for your ingredients, certainty is so important. Your type needs certainty more than most types because certainty for you is a part of how you express yourself. It's a part of your flavor. It's a part of how you communicate, what you bring with your energy. So don't make things complicated. Simplify things. And I want you to put attention on what you already know. Put attention. I want you to write this down. Put attention on what you already know. And you help people from that place. Don't try to veer out and bring people to some place that you haven't been to, some visionary place. I want you to use your extroverted sensing and think about, what am I already manifesting in my life? What am I already doing? And where can I help people from that place? Okay. And that's going to help your certainty. Okay. So if you compare your influence with your certainty, it's a wrap. You will be able to become extremely successful. Okay. Wherever you go, you have the ability to bring people with you. You have the ability to control your thoughts and get what you want in life. You have this natural ability to really control your thoughts and your mind differently than most people. And so it's just important that you are guiding your thoughts in a positive direction and that you're certain and confident about that, because from that place, you'll be able to help a lot of people and it will make you feel a lot more purpose as well. Because the reality is that ENFJs, they're connected to people, and a lot of their happiness will be predicated on the relationships that they have with the people around them. And the last thing you want is a negative, upset, bitter ENFJ. And the reason why those people are bitter is because they don't have the influence that they desire, that they can have on people, or because they have a negative vision on where things are going. And the only thing that will change that is them focusing on a positive vision, something that they believe in and being certain about it and not looking back. And I guarantee you will find a way. ENFJs are steady. They're willing to go one step at a time, and they're willing to go through the tough stuff in order to be the symbol or representation that people need them to be. They are extremely strong and powerful people. And I guarantee that if you are certain about your path and you're confident about where you're going, from that point, you just move forward and make sure that your experiences and your communications are related to that, so that you're not wasting your time communicating or being too lost in the sauce with people. Use your introverted intuition to filter out the distractions and to align yourself with the people that are really for you. Finally, you have a unique ability to trust your vision. And this is, once again, what makes you so inspiring, so magnetic. And this is the superpower that all the other types can't do at the level that you do it. So you have to use this to your advantage. This is what every type wishes they could do. This is the gift you were given, just like the X-Men. Every personality type has a different gift. They might share some gifts, but most of them are different. And this is your domain. You were put here to be a leader. You were put here to have a vision, to make the world better. And it's your job to make sure that you know what vision that is, and you trust yourself, and you move there with certainty. With that being said, I hope this equipped you with some knowledge and power for you to move forward. I want you to delve into this. I want you to watch this again and understand that these are the aspects of your mind, and it is your job to take these and have a dynamic experience of life. All the tools are within you. It is up to you to use them. So with that being said, I thank you so much for listening. I want to give a shout out to all the ENFJs. All right. And hey, if you want to continue and learn the other types, then follow me on to the next type, which will be the INFJ. They are like the cousins of the ENFJ, or the brother, sister, or however you like. But they are very unique in their own right. So you can join me in that next video, or if you wanted to know about your type, that's fine. If just make sure that you tell me one thing that you learned Make sure you join the community. It's free. The 5D community is on the 5dtransformations.com website. And tell me one thing you learned about ENFJs on this type, whether you're an ENFJ or someone that's just watching. Tell me what just unique thing that you learned or that you learned from the course in general so far. With that being said, I will see you in the next portion where we talk about the INFJs. Thank you. Once again, shout out to ENFJs. I'll see you all soon in the next video. Peace.